Art on Demand is a production of the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County, brought to you with support from Alys Beach, 30A.com, and Florida Department of State, Division of Cultural Affairs. While these events are provided at no cost to you, we do ask that you donate what you can by visiting our website, culturalartsalliance.com, in order to help the CAA continue to foster creativity, employ artists, and bring you entertainment, education, and engagement through Art on Demand. We hope you love this virtual event.
Welcome to Art on Demand, produced by the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County in partnership with Alys Beach and 30A.com. My name is Chris Alvarado, and I'm a musician and guitar builder here in Walton County. We're here in my workshop in Freeport, Florida, where I actually build all of my guitars, and I have my studio here as well. I actually do all of this out of my house. I moved back to the area about 10 years ago. I actually grew up just north of here, one county over in Okaloosa County, in a town called Crestview, and once I graduated high school, I joined the military right after 9/11, and I served for about 8 years. In late 2008, I got out of the military with my goal of actually doing exactly what I do now, of playing music and building guitars, without a real clear direction on where I wanted to land. And it was brought to my attention by many people that if I wanted to make a living playing music without trying to go out there and chase the dream of fame, that the 30A area was actually the perfect spot for it. So I started getting gigs and just kind of getting busier and busier with that. And here we are, 10, 11 years later, and I'm always just flabbergasted at the fact that I get to make a living doing the very thing that I said that I was going to do. And I guess it was in 2009 that I found out about this thing called the 30A Songwriters Festival, and I remember like frantically going, who do I got to get a hold of to go to it? It wasn't even in my mind that I should like try to like be in it, but it was just like I want to get tickets to go to this thing. And that's actually how I found out about the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County. They put the whole event on, and that was I want to say 2009 was the very first year that they did it. And I heard Sean Mullins was going to be there, and there was all kinds of people that were going to be there, and it was just this amazing thing. And so I started playing in the Songwriters Festival in 2010. I've done it every year ever since, and I've had this really great connection with the Cultural Arts Alliance, and what they do for this community is just an amazing representation of what this community is all about, which is a community built on the arts and creativity and entrepreneurship and all of that. And what they do is just a huge benefit to everybody who makes their living around here. So the main thing that brought me to the area was music and my goal of making a living doing that. And South Walton has certainly provided in that department with restaurants and private events and weddings. But with that in mind, my secondary goal was also to build guitars. I started building guitars actually in 2005 or 6 when I lived in Alaska, when I was stationed up there. I always wanted to get into woodworking, and a buddy of mine, he built an electric guitar and brought it into the shop, and I was just like, my mind was blown because I hadn't actually kind of thought of, wow, I could build an acoustic guitar, because at the time I had just started playing music on the side. Like on the weekends I was doing open mic nights, and I started getting my very first gigs while still being in the military. So it was just kind of side money and side fun. And that's what kind of made me want to learn how to build acoustic guitars. And it also was what made me realize that I could actually make a go of playing music for a living. And so when I did get out and I moved to the area, I started getting gigs, and that was my main focus. But within probably 2 years, I got a place that had a one-car garage down in Santa Rosa Beach, and my now wife and I actually, we were just starting the date, and I was like, here's the deal, we're like, we got to have a one-car garage because I'm going to start building guitars again. She had no idea what she was getting into, because as soon as we moved in there, I bought all the tools and started buying wood and building guitars. And a lot of people always ask me about the name of the company, which is Driftwood Guitars. And the reason that I call it Driftwood Guitars is not because the guitars are made out of driftwood. It's my last name is Alvarado, like I said, and there's a real famous guitar brand called Alvarez Guitars. So I didn't want to call it Alvarado Guitars to create any confusion. So it was important to me that I named the guitar business after something that represents the area. And after a lot of just kind of brainstorming, I decided to call it Driftwood Guitars, which has actually been really cool. I absolutely think that represents, the area, Driftwood, not only the bay and the rivers and the ocean, or the Gulf. uh, it represents all of that around here. It also gives you the imagery of the wood that I build these guitars out of, and creates a little bit of confusion. But I think it's cool that it represents this place, because I always give this place so much credit for my success, just as much as what I do to create the things. Gosh, it was near 2010 that I really kind of decided that we're going to call them Driftwood guitars. I came up with a little logo, put them on the headstock, and I started building guitars that were originally just for me. But because I play music, gosh, at the time I was playing music 5-6 nights a week. Everybody would always see the guitar and ask about it, and it was just a matter of 1 or 2 years before people started asking if I could build guitars for them. And it's been, gosh, 8 years since I've started building guitars for clients, and ever since then I've always had another guitar to build, so I've got a wait list at this point of about 2 years. Getting back to the Cultural Arts Alliance and the 38 Songwriters Festival, every year I would play the festival, the 38 Songwriters Festival, and I always remember it a little too late, but it would always be like December, and I'm like, man, how cool would it be if I built a guitar for the Songwriters Festival every year? And I think that it was in 2016 that I finally got a hold of Russell and Jennifer, the two producers of the 38 Songwriters Festival, and was like, listen, let's do this thing. Let me build this guitar. I think I found them. They actually came to one of my shows in the middle of summer, and I remember getting a hold of Russell and be like, listen, I just need like a yes or a no, because we'll sort out the details later, and Russell gave me the thumbs up. So it's been since, I think, 2015 or 16 that I've been building a guitar every year that we auction off at the Songwriters Festival that happens on Martin Luther King weekend every single January. And it's really cool for me because I get to build a guitar. The CAA and the 38 Songwriters Fest they don't give me any guidance, which is really nice. I get to just go crazy and build a guitar that is whatever I want it to be. And unlike all my other guitars that I build specifically with clients, with their specific specifications in mind, this is one where I get to just kind of like try out new things. So it's been really fun for me. Was it 2 years ago? I did one with Johnny Cash's face on the bottom of the fretboard with some lyrics going up the headstock, and it turned out that year actually Roseanne Cash was one of the headliners, so that was really cool. So yeah, I try to always do something that represents, as far as the inlays on the guitar, that represents either a songwriter for the Songwriters Festival or something that represents the area. I've done a sea turtle. I've done another one where we did just like a little beach cruiser bike with the 38 SWF on the license plate. But it's really cool. So I do that. I build the guitar leading up to the festival. Myself, the CAA, and the 38 Songwriters Festival promote the guitar, as well as many other items that they auction off. And all of that is then auctioned off on the Sunday, the last day of the festival in January. And it's used to raise money for the Cultural Arts Alliance, which is a fantastic thing. It's just another kind of full circle thing that, once again, I think represents this area so much, which is this: everything that you do, you give back, and it creates this cycle of support and success in the area, and it's just such a magical thing. It's funny how people always like tell me thank you for doing this, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, thank you for doing what you do. And I think that's what's really cool about the CAA and everything around here. This is like my passion more than anything in the whole world, just building these guitars, and to be able to do it for people who are just as passionate about what I'm doing is a really cool thing. It was in 2012 that my wife and I actually decided I needed more space because the business was growing and we were growing as a family. So we actually bought a house up here in Freeport, and it has a 2-car garage, and I've spent the last 7 years kind of converting it into, as I tell folks, Driftwood Guitars World Headquarters. And so I've been up here doing that, and as you can see, this is where we are now. And it's a small space, but it's really been a practice in efficiency, because I've had to like learn what tools I can have room for and what tools I use the most. And I spend the vast majority of my time during the day here in the shop building guitars, on the phone with clients, and at nighttime I head down to the beaches and I play my music. I wanted to give you guys a quick, really basic idea of kind of what it is I do in here. Like the number one question that folks always ask me are, how long does it take to build the guitars? And the short, rough answer to that is it takes about 4 to 6 months for me to build a guitar, from the time that I've actually physically start making it to the time that it's got strings on it and the customer is ready to take delivery of it. Obviously, it depends on how many I'm building at a time. I do about 12 to 15 guitars a year, in batches of anywhere between 3 and 5. And every single guitar is built absolutely to my customers' specific requests, whether it's their tone wood choices or the body shape, especially the inlays. I design all those and make all those in-house by hand. Obviously, it's with my guidance, and that's where all the years of me building these guitars really comes into play. And so some of the things I've got sitting on the workbench here are just some real basic raw materials. This is kind of how they show up to my house when I order them. This is a piece of Brazilian rosewood that will be one of my session model guitars, which is my smaller body. But these come from the different dealers, kind of cut differently, but this is your typical, it's about 4 millimeters thick. These are what will be the sides of the guitar, and these have got to be sanded before they're bent. And then these are some tops. They come the same way. All the wood inside of a guitar comes in what's called book match and quarter sawn. And if you can imagine that there's a tree here, this wood is sitting inside the tree like this, with the tree going up. It is sliced open, and you join them together like that to create a top or a back. So I'll join those woods in the middle and then make them the thickness that they need to be. But the real magic and what makes it a handmade guitar is that, as opposed to a factory-made guitar, is that I get a chance with every single guitar and every single piece of wood to take it to that point of its most musical state. And there's only one way to know what that is, and it's really to pay attention to the wood, and obviously all my years of experience of doing this. So I'll send this wood through my drum sander until it feels right to me, until it starts to sound right to me. I don't necessarily stick to a specific, oh, this wood goes to 2.5 millimeters. I go to, when does the wood tell me that it's the most musical? And I do that with every single step along the way. And so that wood will be joined, and eventually it will become the top of a guitar like this. And this is an example of a guitar where the braces are glued on, but they haven't been what's called voicing. They haven't been voiced yet. So the next step on this would be for me to actually shave all of these braces down in a known way, but also it's up to the wood once again to tell me when this top becomes its most musical. And I actually will not just voice it to be its most musical, I'll voice it to be as musical for that particular client's playing style. What kind of music do they play? Are they a bluegrass player? Do they fingerstyle play? Something else to consider too is that person going to be gigging with it full time? Is it going to be a guitar they use strictly in a studio, or is it just going to hang on the wall? I've built guitars for some big touring country acts, and those guitars might spend one evening in dry air Colorado, and the next day they're in Louisiana where it's 900% humidity. So I have to take all that into consideration. And that's what's really cool for my clients, to be able to come to me and not just pick out everything visually, but to know that the guitar is built specifically to their physical ergonomics, but also to their the lifestyle that the instrument's going to live. And that's a really cool and unique opportunity for all of my clients. It's not really something that you can do anywhere else. And this is you can see behind me as well, I've got some this is a guitar body. This is what the body looks like before I'm ready to start working on the neck. And this is a pretty basic Indian rosewood back and sides and Sitka spruce top. And you won't be able to tell too much, but it's got a really killer tone to it right now. Something that's really cool about building acoustic guitars in general is that you can't put the strings on the guitar until the absolute last step. It's like this cruel irony of it. So I don't get a chance to do something, listen to how it's going to affect the guitar. Oh, I don't like that, so let me change it up a little bit. I literally have to commit to all my choices sonically and then find out whether it worked or not on the very last step. So it's important that I have I have a book that I keep notes of all of the steps and the specific dimensions that I take each piece of wood to, so that I can kind of cross-reference and decide whether certain things work or not. But yeah, so what I can do is just tap on it and see if it's musical or not, and then as I'll find out at the very last step whether or not all my changes made a difference. And yeah, so it's every day I'm in here just working on guitars and just I work a little bit on one guitar, let some glue dry, work on another guitar, and it's just it's my dream. It's my absolute dream to be in here doing that, and it's a real cool thing. One of the things that I feel like has really given me a leg up on some of the success I've had is my the inlays that I do on my guitars. I kind of stumbled into the inlays. I made like a rule that I gave myself when I first started building for clients, and it was like never say no. So clients would ask me, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" And I would just be like, "Yes," even if I had no idea how I was going to pull it off. And it's forced me to try things out that I never thought that I could do. And one of my very first commissions was for Duke Bardwell, who's a local guy, and he was actually Elvis Presley's bass player for about 4 or 5 years. And I remember building the guitar, and he was like, "All right." And he's from Louisiana. He's like, "You think, with his cool Louisiana accent, can you do like a butterfly on that guitar for me?" And I was like, "Sure." Having no idea how I'm going to do a butterfly inlay on this guitar. So I just kind of like came up with my own system, made a butterfly, and I was just like so excited about how it came out. And that has snowballed into, at this point, gosh, 8 years later, where part of the reason why people buy my guitars is for these photorealistic inlays that I do, and it becomes a part of the story of the guitar. So what I have in front of me here is just some of the materials. Most people are just like really kind of confused on what an inlay is and what it's made of and how it's done. And for me, every inlay starts off with a photograph and of whatever it is that the client wants. I then illustrate that photograph so that I can find where the color gradations are in the image, and then I'll print it out on paper, like 50 copies of it, and I actually will cut off that paper, that little piece of the puzzle essentially, and then I put that piece of paper on whatever material it is that I'm going to need to make that color, and I cut the whole thing out with this little handsaw. And this is literally what I make all of my inlays out of right here. And so it's just different woods that I save from all these different guitars over the years. I don't really care what species it is. To me, it's about what color it is and the different grains in the figures. I also use some stone, reconstituted stone, and pearls. This is abalone shell, woolly mammoth ivory, all kinds of stuff. I don't really have any preference of what the material is. Does it give me the visual look that what I want? And so it's a really cool process for me. So I've got some guitars on the wall that I've been working. They're finished. The guitars are actually finished. And something I always say is I have to build my canvas first. So I'll spend 3 months building the physical guitar, like I showed you behind me. Put the neck on it and structurally be finished with the guitar. But before we do any finish work on it, then I work with my clients and say, well, what is it that you want to tell? What's the story of this guitar? Some folks just want basic fret markers, which is fine. They're not into the inlays because it's just going to be, they want a more classic, traditional look. But other folks, they use it as an opportunity to kind of create an heirloom piece. And 2 of the pieces that I have on the wall represent, I think, that process really well. One of them is a father with 3 sons, and he wanted me to, can you do a lion with 3 cubs? And so I actually just finished doing the inlays yesterday, and as you can see, they're sitting on the fretboard, and this is how they look before they've actually been inlaid. I've actually made the inlays. I kind of tape them in place so that the client can see what they look like visually before I actually cut the pocket out for them to go into. And then we're also going to do some imagery on the back of the guitar. The other guitar that you see has the gray top on it. This is actually, there's only 12 to 14 pieces of this wood in the world, and it's actually a 3,000-year-old piece of Sitka spruce that was buried underneath a glacier. It's been carbon dated, and all of this gray color that you see comes from finely ground up granite that the glacier tore up and sunk into the spruce. And this is a story kind of about the client came to me with the idea of this guitar with the inlays already planned out. He wants me to tell the story of his family's immigration story from Poland. And so we're actually going to be sitting down in the next week or two to kind of come up with some visual ideas of how to tell that story. You know, the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, his immigration documents from Ellis Island. And so you can see the guitar doesn't have any inlays on it yet, but this is how I can kind of then work with the client and say, well, now what are we going to do? And it's a really cool process for me because I get to learn a lot about my clients. The clients actually get an opportunity to learn about themselves. It's this really amazing thing watching people kind of realize the weight of what this means. I always say it's kind of like a tattoo, but it's almost more important than a tattoo because a tattoo you have to live with. And there's a moment in my guitar building process for everybody where they realize that this is not a guitar for them, it's a guitar for their family. And so they go, man, I gotta really nail this inlay because it's not just going to be my guitar, but when I pass away, I'm going to pass it on to somebody in my family. And so they take this inlay very, very seriously, which is a really cool thing for me because that's what I want people to realize. You're not just getting a guitar, you're getting a statement about who you are in your life. And the guitars become part of my legacy, but they become part of my client's legacy as well. So it has this really important meaning to both me and my customers. And so yeah, that's another real big reason why folks get Driftwood guitars. Something else along those lines of visually making an inlay that means something to you is I also often ask my clients to really think about, do they have anything that physically means something to them that on its own isn't really that important, but what it's made out of is important. So like an example would be like I have a client that I'm actually building a guitar for now, and he has a piece of wood that is from the side of the barn of the farm he grew up on. So on its own, that little piece of wood doesn't mean a lot, but I'm actually going to take a sliver of that wood and basically make inlay material out of it, and we'll make his inlay out of that wood. And so not only visually will his inlay be significant and the guitar will be significant, but the inlay itself is made out of something that means something to him. So it's a piece of his history. And the most significant inlays or guitars that I do are on several occasions now I've actually been asked to include the ashes of folks who have passed in the instrument itself. And the first time I actually did that was for the guys from Dread Clampett, Balder Saunders and Kyle Ogle, and we put the ashes of Kenny Oliverio in the neck of the guitar, so when those guys play, the three of them are still together playing music, and it's a really cool thing for me because that's the whole reason I do this is to do something that moves you, something that's important. And whether it's my music or my guitars, all I care about is, does it make you feel something? That's kind of been my mission statement in life, and so it's really cool to be able to I see that as a giving back thing too. Yeah, so it's a real special thing for me when folks kind of and they entrust me to tell that story in whether it's visually or literally like that. It's a really special thing for me. Along the lines of me making these guitars that mean something, I've also had a few guitars that I've decided that I just want to build that aren't necessarily for a client specifically, but I want to use materials once again that are historically significant. And 2 years ago now, I actually decided that I was going to build a guitar for the Woodstock Music Festival's 50th anniversary, which has come and gone, mind you. But I started on the guitar, and I started building the guitar and wanted to use something historically significant for the guitar, and found out that there's a guy named Steve Gold up in upstate New York who actually owns all of the original wood from the 1969 Woodstock Music Festival stage. And so I reached out to him and told him what I'd like to do and asked him if I could get a little piece of wood. I literally needed a little piece of wood to make an inlay out of. And he sent me a small piece, and then I was like, man, if I could get more of it, I could build the whole neck of the guitar out of it. So he actually sent me this whole piece of plywood. And we've got all the provenance information. It has been verified. This is the original actual stage from Woodstock. This is one of the front pieces of the stage where Richie Havens kicked off the festival and Hendrix stood and all of the big people. So I'm actually shooting a documentary about it now, and we're almost at the point now where I'm actually going to start on the neck, but this will all be joined together and glued up, and I'll actually make the neck of the guitar out of it. But it's just a really, once again, another cool opportunity for me to make something that is important. It occurred to me years ago when I was doing guitar repair work that people would give me these guitars that were just not, they weren't, to me, special guitars, but to them they were incredibly special. And what made them special was the heirloom quality of it. It was not that it was a fancy or expensive guitar, it was their grandfather's. And it occurred to me that as a new guitar builder, I can't build heirloom pieces because I don't have the history to add into it. And that's when I kind of realized that if I make them out of something that is historical to that client, that I can make an heirloom piece out of the gate. So I've kind of rolled with it and done this. And I've also got plans to do a guitar for like the Grand Ole Opry. I've got some of the original stage flooring of the Grand Ole Opry, and I want to do an Apollo 11 guitar as well. And I've got some original gold foil from the command module of the Apollo 11. But yeah, it's just important to me that I do things that once again, that mean something and make you just go, wow, I hadn't thought of it doing it that way. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys some of this really cool wood. Well, I hope that gave you guys a little bit better idea of what it is I do here in the shop with my guitar building. And while you're here at the house, I wanted to take an opportunity to show you my recording studio and maybe play some songs for you and show you a couple of guitars that I actually have that are strung up and finished. So follow me in there and I'll show you guys that. So this is my recording studio in my house that I built out about 7 years ago, and I do all my recording in here and a lot of my guitar demos and stuff. When I have clients, I bring them in here to check out the pieces, and it's also just kind of my creative space for creating music as well. So welcome to the studio again, and my main thought process when I made this studio, because when we bought the house, this was just a spare room, was that I wanted to make a space that was like a place that you just wanted to be. I wanted it to be a creative space that you wouldn't get burnt out if you spent an entire day in. So it needed to be visually pleasing as well as sonically pleasing, and so with that in mind, I set out to kind of make this small little 100 square foot room as efficient as possible, and everything you see in here I made, including all the way down to the floors. I actually made these floors from plywood and built out this desk. The walls, an old reclaimed fence that I found over in Choctaw Beach, and all of the acoustic treatments that you see in here aren't random. I actually used software to help me design them, and they're designed to actually eliminate certain problem frequencies inside the room. And it's different than most recording studios. Most recording studios are designed specifically to just record this room, because I have to not just record the music, but I have to mix and master it as well. I have to find that sweet spot of it being both dead and live at the same time, acoustically speaking. And so it's really, I think, got that element to it. Because when I originally designed it, it was just for recording, but since COVID-19 and everything struck, it's actually worked out really nicely for me, because I've been using this same studio to do all my live streams from, which has been really great, because visually it looks nice, but it's also got all my equipment in it. And over the years, I've recorded several local musicians and brought in some smaller bands. Because it's not a huge room, I haven't been able to record a whole lot of big groups, but it's really just been a way for me to be able to once again kind of help out musicians who need a place to record, as well as a way for me to hone my skill as a musician and recording engineer, and to kind of put some of those funds back into my own studio so that I can record my own work when I want to. And the other thing that's been nice about it too is that when I have clients that come in and they see the workshop and they're interested in buying a guitar, I can bring them in here and we can have a quiet place to really get a sense of what my guitars sound like, in more of a home setting. And it's been really, really nice for all of those things. And a lot of times I just come in here when I'm trying to write music, and I'll just I can close the door and just focus on the music without being distracted by anything. So it's a really nice space for that as well. So I thought I'd take a minute to grab one of these guitars and play some songs for you, and then also kind of show you some of the features of one of the finished pieces, which was actually really nice for you to see. And the timing's really good because I actually have the guitar I built for the 10th annual 30-Day Songwriters Festival here, which the guy who won this guitar actually lives in Santa Rosa Beach, so it's locally owned, and I get to borrow it back every once in a while, which is really nice for different events and things. But it's a good example of what I try to do with the Songwriters Festival every year. And, you know, this is one with Johnny Cash on the fretboard, as well as the lyrics that say, "Ain't no grave could hold my body down." It's got the Songwriters Festival logo on the back for the 10th anniversary year. And the label also always commemorates the year of the event, and it also mentions the Cultural Arts Alliance on the label on the inside, which is the whole reason that we do the 30-Day Songwriters Festival. It's lost on a lot of folks, and that is to help raise money for that fantastic organization that helps put this art on demand. And if you would like to, you can actually help donate to the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County. We're going to provide a link down below at the bottom of the screen, so if you are enjoying this and you want to see more episodes to help make this happen, we can do that with your donations, and those are greatly appreciated. We had to do the plug. And with that, we'll sing some songs for you. And I've actually got this guitar tuned up a little bit different, but here's a song that I wrote years ago. It's about being in a long relationship with somebody, and kind of how you are listening to music that only the two people in the couple can hear, and how your time in that relationship is like dancing to that music. So what's this song called? I don't even remember what I call it. I don't even know if I came up with a title for it, but I haven't recorded it yet, so I don't need a title. Walk with me to the morning rise, sway with me, it'll be alright. I hope that I pray that I can lead the way. And I hope that I pray that I can make you stay. Neath the weeping willow we can be found. There's a song where only lovers hear the sound. So take my hand and dance with me, dance with me. Let me be your only desire, and lay with me and just feel the fire. And I hope that I pray that I can hold your hand. And I hope that I pray that I can be your man. Neath the weeping willows we can be found. 'Cause there's a song where only lovers hear the sound. So take my hand and dance with me. So yeah, that was a song I wrote years ago, and I think we'll close out with something that I I close out all my gigs with this particular song. All my regular shows has become a little bit of a fan favorite, which is fine because it's my favorite song I've ever written, and it's about being a dad. It's about being a son. It's about just the cycle of life and how all that works, and it's actually kind of fitting because I really feel like it ties into what I was saying when we were in the workshop about I do everything that I do to make you feel something, but also I do it because I want it to carry on and live a life of its own. And that's kind of what this song's about how everything that I experience, one day my son will probably experience. And we all do that, whether you have kids or not, you're somebody's child. And it's important to me. I'm just very philosophical about that sort of thing. I was telling folks recently that I kind of call this song my philosophical life insurance policy. If something happens to me, hopefully my son can listen to it over and over again and learn a little bit about me and lessons I want him to have. So I do want to thank you guys and the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County for coming here and doing this interview with me, and Alys Beach and 38.com for helping to make it all happen. And I appreciate you guys. So this is called This I Need You to Know. I tell my son to always be good, but the words that I say, they are misunderstood. For as he grows older, he'll learn the truth. For the wisdom I give him, let no one undo. With these hands I will feed you, and I will teach you to hold. But for now I will show you everything that I know. Though soon I might leave you in this world all alone. 'Cause if my heart should stop beating, this I need you to know. Don't grow up too fast, 'cause some things in life you never get back. And there come a time you've been down and misunderstood, but just know where you stand I once stood. Where you now stand I once stood. And I tell my son just to do what is right, and that there's strength in his words and there's weakness in lies. For as he grows older, he'll see the truth, that it's a fine line to walk between a man and a fool. With these hands I will shape you, and I will teach you to grow. But for now I will give you everything that I own. Though soon I might leave you in this world all alone. 'Cause if my heart should stop beating, this I need you to know. Don't give up too fast, 'cause one day you're gonna look back and you will say that we had it so good. But just know where you stand I once stood. Where you now stand I once stood. With these hands I will shape you into a man I will mold. But for now I will give you
all the love my heart holds, the soon I will leave you in this world all alone. 'Cause when my heart stops beating, this I hope you'll know. 'Cause one day you'll be grown and have a child of your own. And I hope you'll say that my father raised me good. And you'll say, where I stand, he once stood. Where I now stand, my father once stood. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for experiencing this episode of Art on Demand, presented by the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County, with support from Alys Beach, 30A.com, and Florida Department of State, Division of Cultural Affairs. We hope you explored your creativity and learned something new today. As the creative core of Walton County, the Cultural Arts Alliance of Walton County offers support, connection, and access opportunities for all forms of art, every variety of maker, all levels of learners, and especially art lovers. Through performance, funding, and educational programs, the 501c3 organization directly connects the people of Walton County with the broader view, the critical exploration, and the answers only the arts have the power to provide. If you loved this episode, please visit culturalartsalliance.com and click the donate button to give what you can to help the CAA continue to bring you art on demand. And stay tuned for our next virtual event coming soon.